discussion with my kids. And I said, so why do you want to have a sucker business, Josh? He was like, I don't know. And I was like, buddy, that's not going to count. You got to know why. Because businesses work. And you know there's going to be times when you're going to be making those, you're going to be doing that, and you're going to rather be playing with your friends or doing other stuff, but the work's going to demand that you focus in on that, and you got to know why you're doing it, or you're going to want to quit. So Josh, why do you want to have a sucker business? And he kind of looked at me and said, well, I want to make money. I said, that's fantastic. I said, but Josh, let me push you a little bit on that. Why do you want to make money? And after a minute, he said, well, I really want to get a nice bike. I said, great. How much is that bike? Kind of figured out what that was and how much he would need. And then we started into this, okay? You click is that up there? There we go, okay? So they started into it. They worked it together. We went through simple marketing plans, and they talked about they want to do this online piece. And so we did an online ordering form, and I showed them how to set that up. I actually had them set up and worked with them to do that. They set up a little online website where they can go to the ordering form. They did a marketing plan that I worked them with. I literally sat down with them and helped them, but let them do it. It wasn't something that I was going to do because I'm trying to teach them the fundamentals of this. And they learned how to track it, how to track orders. They learned how to give good customer service. They learned how to follow up with customers. They did a lot of really good stuff on their own. They're not healthy suckers, as you can see by the amount of sugar my daughter's putting in right there. This is not going to appear soon in like a Beachbody Challenge pack, okay? But they're good suckers. And their first week of business, they execute on their marketing plan. They got their order form out. They used free samples to kind of initiate conversations and gave out cards and talked to people. And I was really, really proud of what they did. At the end of the first, actually about 10 days or so, I said, okay, so now's payday. We sat down. We figured out what their costs were. Literally, I had Joshua break out what his cost per sucker was, so we knew what his profit was, and he kind of allocated money towards inventory and paid and all this kind of stuff. And boy, again, don't I sound like a fun dad, right? But why did I do it? It would have been so much easier for me to just do it. Hey, we'll buy the materials. Mom's gonna really bake this stuff because it's really hot candy, and she did, by the way, just so you know. We weren't letting them do too much of the dangerous stuff. But I did it because I wanted them to learn some of the fundamentals of entrepreneurship and business. Not because I hope they become professional handcrafted sucker makers for the rest of their life, but because the same principles that they will use in this little business that they're doing this summer, they will use time and time again as they go on. And that's one of the things that make the fundamentals so important. One of the things that we have a tendency to do in business in general and is we tend to overcomplicate. We tend to overreact to certain situations. We tend to walk away from the things that are fundamental because we get bored with them. We think that our business almost should be entertaining to us. We think of new things to do almost just out of a desire to do something different. And before long, if we're not careful, we walk away from the fundamentals. Our business gets kind of more complicated, it feels heavy, it's draining to us, and we're wondering why we're not getting the results that we used to get. And typically, in my experience, that's been of a slow but steady drift away from the fundamentals. So my purpose in talking to you today is to remind you of that. That with all this information that you're getting right now, it should be pushing you towards executing on those fundamentals, not away from it. And as you make these decisions for your business, please align yourself that way. Now, to give you some greater insights into that, I want to talk about a few things. Towards the end of last year, we did a pretty interesting little study, just trying to get some ideas around best practices and what was working and what was going on in the coach network. We looked at, just to kind of choose a specific cohort, we looked at about 3,800 coaches who had really higher income that year than the previous year that were diamond or above. And we wanted to know, well, of this group, what are they doing? What is it about them? And so it's a pretty extensive study, but there's some things specific to the vital behaviors that I want to point out. Because the vital behaviors are our fundamentals. That's what we call our fundamentals. One of the things that I was interested in is, are the vital behaviors still relevant to these coaches? Are they still working, or are we just completely blind and we keep talking the vital behaviors and everyone's like, dude, those don't work anymore? What we found was that 91% of the coaches in this cohort wholeheartedly said that they are not only important, but they're at the very core of what they do and what they teach their teams to do. Furthermore, they said part of the importance of the vital behaviors isn't just around the proactive things I do to grow my business, but it's also it's the foundation of the other things required to grow. How do I push through flat spots? How do I overcome obstacles? How do I handle those things that really emotionally wear me down? What is the thing that I lean on? Well, it was those vital behaviors. Why? Because it simplifies what I know I need to do by giving clear priority and focus to my actions. It's like a weather stick, it's like a measuring stick that I know when I drift too far away from it that I can kind of come back to and check myself against. And I want to share with you some information that we found, take a little bit deeper dive, 6 points specifically about how we saw these coaches applying the vital behaviors in their business that I think you might find interesting. And honestly, the value of this will probably be in some of the benchmarks that I talk about to help you kind of check yourself a little bit on areas that maybe you can, again, focus better on the fundamentals. Point number 1. Now, we talk a lot about be proof the products work, and I think most of us understand what that means, all right? But I want to go a little bit deeper. Specifically with this group, when we said be proof the products work, what we found it was this idea of using Beachbody products daily and sharing your journey, okay? Those two pieces really formed what it was to be proof the products work. Specifically, this is one things we noticed a lot of them did. That they completed fitness programs from start to finish. And of course, they used the nutrition solutions and supplements that we offer as well. If I were to distill it down into maybe a really concise phrase, is they were their best customer. Every single month, they were their best customer, their best challenger, their best coach. They modeled what they were talking about, and when they did that, that had a great halo impact on their business, on the people that are around them. So that's the question I'm going to ask you. Check number 1, right? Are you your best customer every single month? Are you your best challenger? And are you your best coach? Okay. The second thing they did, as you'd probably appreciate here, is they shared the success they had with the lifestyle and how they incorporated Beachbody products into it. It wasn't a 24/7 billboard about Beachbody. In fact, frequently they didn't even mention the names of the products they were using. All right? They would use other words, you've heard a lot of them, I guess the different ones people call Energize, the different products, but they would just show how they've incorporated into their life, whether it was the time freedom that they had, greater sense of peace, the energy they had in the morning during the workout, however, but they really demonstrated that, just like you heard Angie and Megan talk about, to create that curiosity in people, but also built trust and credibility and confidence in them. Point number 2. So we talk about personal development. Let's dig a little bit deeper into what that means for these coaches. They engaged in personal development and professional development. They were focused on bettering themselves as coaches and as people, actually. What we saw is they listened to, read, or watched at least 20 minutes of personal development every single day, okay? And specifically, they didn't treat personal development as personal entertainment. They didn't listen to these things to be entertained. They listened with the intention of applying the things that they learned. They listened with the purpose of looking for areas of improvement and and then made commitments to put it into action. And I think that's so important. Okay, personal development is not entertainment. It's not supposed to be entertainment. Maybe it's entertaining, but we don't approach it like we would entertainment. We approach it with the idea of putting what we learn in practice. So ask yourself, when I'm engaging in personal development, am I engaging with the intention to apply what I'm learning, or to just be kind of entertained and to feel good and to maybe hopefully something stick in my brain somewhere in the back? Okay? If not, there's an opportunity there to align more to the fundamentals. Point number 3. This is kind of a big one, but the good news is you just heard a ton about it from Megan and Angie, so I don't have to talk a lot about it. But when it came to, we used the word invite a lot. Let me dig a little bit deeper in what that meant. They enrolled at least 3 new clients every single month. On average, it was actually a little bit closer to 4, but it was like 3 point something, okay? And typically, at least one of those was a coach. What did they do to do that? Well, they always had a group or event to invite to. Now, why does that matter? Because that specific start date was a really, really good tool for them to leverage in the inviting process. And all we're doing when we're inviting people is facilitating their decision to get started. It's not a referendum on us as people. or your ability as coaches, or anything else. It's someone trying to make a decision to take care of themselves, to make progress towards their health and fitness, and you're trying to facilitate that decision. Why do they need that? Because if they were good at making those decisions, they probably wouldn't need you as a coach. But they're not. And so to have an expectation that they wouldn't have money concerns or time concerns or commitment concerns is probably being a little unrealistic, because they're not used to making those commitments yet. That's why they need you. So we facilitate that start. And that start date helps do that. They also are posting consistently on social media every single day. Again, I don't have to talk a lot about this because you just heard Megan and Angie talk about that, but what that looks like. And again, it's not as, you used to hear the 3 to 5 posting every day as they talked about. It's not really that way anymore. Maybe a couple posts, one post here or there, typically some breadcrumbing, subtle calls to action in there, but then a lot of stories, okay, and videos. And then they approached a very simple thing. In fact, one of the overwhelming pieces of feedback that we got from this group was how we needed to change the way we talked about inviting, that it wasn't invite, that there was a process there that we needed to be clearer on. And this is how I've articulated here: expand, connect, invite, and follow up. And as you broke that down, you found these people, again, this cohort, to be very systematic. Typically, they would add about 10 new friends or followers to their social media every single day, through Facebook groups, through whatever method. Again, you've heard a lot about that while you've been here. They would measure the number of new conversations they start every single day. And on average, it was about 5 new conversations every single day. They would then invite 5 people a day to do something, typically to a challenge group or to learn about coaching. But they would have 5 invites every single day and then 5 follow-ups. Now I want you to pay attention, for a lot of you, to that box in the top right corner. I know for a lot of you in here, those numbers right there can seem a little bit daunting to where you're at right now. I don't want them to be daunting to you. It can take time to build up your pipeline to where that's happening. But that should be your goal, if you're not there yet, to get to the point where you're hitting those numbers every single day. And how do I do that? Well, obviously, you've heard a lot about it this week, but it is going to be consistency and applying these things, and then you'll get to that point. Those activities create the predictable outcomes that you want for your business. I'll say that again. Those activities at those levels are going to create the predictable outcomes that you want from your business. All right? Point number 4. Now I'm going to talk a little about how they teach, or how they started to really leverage the vital behaviors. This one about recognition. We talk a lot about helping new people. Success Club really recognizes helping new people. And the reason is that's a key critical area of your business. Every business in this world is always focused on helping and finding new customers, because it's critical to the health of the business, okay, and including yours. But there's also really important that we take care of and create value for the existing customers and coaches that we have. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. Part of our mission, in fact, our mission relies on that. Our mission isn't just to help people get started on their goals and then go find other people, right? If we're really going to help people reach their goals, get results, and live healthy, fulfilling lives, that's a longer-term process, right? We're creating value for those existing customers. So what did they do? Again, they ran effective challenge groups, and they really tried to create them, make them fun, things that customers enjoy. They tried to create senses of community for them. This might seem intimidating to some of you, but again, start somewhere with this, but they did put an emphasis on that. They were also very, very clear about keeping people accountable to the entire Beachbody solution: fitness, nutrition, and support. And when they had people that maybe didn't want to have one of those, they honestly were very typically, again, I'm not using a broad brush here, but typically, they were very insistent and say, you're welcome to do that, but I don't know if I can be your best support, because the way I know the results work is this way, okay? And encouraging people to use the entire support system, which communicated confidence in what they were doing and conviction, which inspired and built belief in the customer's behalf. And then they leveraged recognition to keep people engaged and keep people going, okay? They taught the vital behaviors for them weren't just something that they did, but it was at the foundation of the training they did for their team, okay? Oops, let me go back here. 25, there we go. One of the things you're going to see us focus more and more on towards the end of this year is that first bullet point. One of the key metrics that I'm going to ask you to keep in mind as a foundational, fundamental metric is when I have a business-oriented coach start out, so someone whose intention is to build a business. when I have one of those coaches start up, one of the things that I want you to kind of put a mark on your calendar is, I want them to have helped their first person within their first 10 days. The statistics show when you do that, the likelihood of their success going forward increases significantly. And so we need to measure that. We need to track that. You're going to see us come out actually with some tools later on this year, a little preview for you, to help do that. We're going to realign a lot of pieces, Coach Basics, different pieces to align that goal. But that's a good one to look at. And they also train their coaches on the things I've talked about, the vital behaviors, how to run groups, and how to get new coaches started. Now, point 6, I'm going to spend a little bit of time here to close. You know, it's interesting. At the beginning here, I talked about decisions and good intentions. And one of the things I'll get coaches that will ask me to sometimes when I say that whole good intentions aren't decisions made. And they're like, well, how can you tell the difference? So I talk about game plans and accountability. And I said, but also it kind of boils down to if you're willing to make a commitment. And you know what a commitment feels like. A commitment feels like, you know what? I'm ready. Like it's a changing of your heart almost. Like I'm really serious. I'm really going to make this happen. I'm going to promise and commit to myself. No real decision is ever made without a commitment. The commitment always precedes the decision, and a decision will always precede the action. So commitment is really where it starts. I'm going to ask you to keep some commitments here. These are some of the commitments we see again, this cohort of coaches keeping. First of all, the commitments they keep to themselves, they make to themselves. They commit to themselves to treat their business like a business. Meaning, I'm gonna do what I need to do to make this successful. Okay? Things like commit to be in business a year from now. To have that long-term mindset of what it takes to actually to develop it. And to keep going forward with it. To be able to develop a compelling vision and purpose for your business. To always know why you're in business. Guys, if it's important for my kids selling suckers, it's way more important for what you're doing in your business. And do you have that? And do you keep it present? I'm going to ask you to commit to yourself to give at least 1 hour of focused time every day to expanding, connecting, inviting, and following up. This was a commonality that we saw amongst almost all of that cohort that we talked to. Some of them did more than that, but I saw at least that 1 hour mark. And then the last one was one thing that Sean talked about today. I was actually really excited when he talked about it because I was like, yay, it's going to go with what I'm going to talk about. But I want you to make a commitment to find joy in coaching and to have fun. To decide to look at your business in that lens, through that lens, to be grateful for the things that it offers you and for the things that it does, and even the challenges that it gives you. I'm going to ask you to commit to your team, to be engaged and supportive, to be an active contributor to the team, and to help one another. Now, for some of you, that will be easy. For others of you that kind of like to be I'm a solo writer over here, I'm going to ask you to kind of maybe not be so solo anymore. Help create the culture on your team that other people want to be a part of, because as I say, a rising tide lifts all boats. And if you don't think that you impact that, you're wrong, you do. The culture of a team is created by the shared values of the people that belong to it. And your contribution is critical to that. And part of that is doing things as a team together, like attending events. I hope all of you got your ticket for Summit next year. I know there's a lot of time between now and then and things might happen, and I don't know, but make that commitment. And then help your team that isn't here to make that commitment as well. Things change, start to change with commitments that we make. And finally, I'm going to ask you to make another set of commitments to Beachbody. And not ones that are hopefully asking too much. But it's more of an invitation to align yourself to the mission that we have. To support that mission. To represent the brand in a positive way. To contribute positively to the community that we're trying to build. To be an active participant in that. And of course, more than anything, to use the solutions that we offer to help yourself first, and then other people fulfill our mission. To achieve your goals, not just once, but ongoing, and live a healthy, fulfilling life. Those are some key commitments. I'm going to end with this quote. I love it. It's by Dr. Anthony Campolo. He's from the University of Pennsylvania. And some of you are going to read this and go, oh my gosh. And some of you are going to read and go, I have no idea what that dude's talking about. But at some point, it will hit you. So take a picture of this slide if you don't already. What you commit yourself to be will change what you are and make you into a different person. Now let me repeat that. Now this is the important part. Not the past, but the future conditions you. Not the past, but the future conditions you. To let go of some of those things that keep you from making commitments, the fears that come from those things. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've got to let that go because the past doesn't condition you anywhere, but the future. Because what you commit yourself to become will determine what you are ultimately. More than anything that ever happened to you yesterday or the day before. Therefore, I ask you a simple question. What are your commitments? Where are you going? What are you going to be? That is the power, you guys, of commitments. I don't want that notebook that you're carrying around to be a tombstone in the graveyard of good intentions. Let's not confuse decisions with good intentions. Let's make those commitments that will drive those decisions that will ultimately create the outcomes that we want. You guys with me on that? Okay? And I can promise you if you'll do that next year when we see each other, your business will be different than it is today in a good way. All right, you guys? I really appreciate the time to be out here with you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your summer, okay? Thanks, guys.